So let's talk about the MacBook. What if one of its best new ideas isn't actually coming from inside Apple at all, but from a random user online? Yeah, today we're diving into this phantom feature that's kind of been hiding in plain sight. It's one of those ideas that's so clever you have to ask yourself, why doesn't this already exist?
And it all kicked off with this comment right here. Just a simple, but honestly a really sharp observation. See, this isn't just someone asking for a new button. This is a complete reimagining of a piece of the laptop we touch all the time. And believe me, when you start to really think about it, you realize, wow, this idea is powerful.
So that really brings us to the big question we're tackling today. Is it possible that this idea, from a user, is actually the smartest, most innovative thing Apple could be building for the MacBook? Let's find out. We're going to look at the potential, the roadblocks, and the truly incredible vision behind it all.
You know, what makes this whole concept so darn compelling is that it doesn't require some huge, crazy hardware revolution. I mean, the main parts, they're already there. We're talking about that huge pressure-sensitive glass trackpad MacBooks have, with that amazing haptic engine buzzing away underneath. It's practically begging to do more.
And here's the thing. This idea solves a problem that Apple themselves have been talking about for years, right? They've always said no to touchscreens on MacBooks, and honestly for a good reason. Reaching up and poking at a vertical screen all day, it's just not comfortable. Well, this whole concept, it just completely sidesteps that entire issue.
Okay, and this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got that classic gorilla arm problem. It's tiring, it's awkward, nobody likes it. But on the other side, a totally natural, comfortable hand position. It's exactly how artists have worked with drawing tablets for decades. Your eyes stay locked on the big screen while your hand is just naturally working down below. It's just better ergonomics, plain and simple. And you get to use the super precise Apple Pencil.
So let's just tick off the immediate wins here, because there are a few big ones. First, boom. Every MacBook Pro basically gets a built-in professional-grade drawing tablet. That's a huge deal for any creative person. Second, like we just said, it completely solves Apple's own gorilla arm argument against touchscreens. And third, you get the best part of Sidecar, using an Apple Pencil on your Mac, but you don't have to buy and lug around a whole separate iPad to do it. It's brilliant.
All right, but we have to talk about the elephant in the room, right? The touch bar. Apple already tried putting a little screen near the keyboard, and, well, we all know how that went. It was a pretty big failure. So you've got to be asking, why would this be any different? And the answer really comes down to how you actually use it.
See, the touch bar failed because it was constantly breaking your focus. You're in the zone, working, and suddenly have to look down, away from your work, at this tiny little strip to find a button. It killed your flow. This trackpad idea is the complete opposite. It's not for quick little glances. It's a dedicated workspace that you are intentionally focusing on for a creative task. It doesn't break your flow, it enhances it.
Okay, so as exciting as all this sounds, we do need a little reality check. This isn't something Apple could just push out in a software update next Tuesday. There are some really big technical, and maybe even more importantly, business hurdles they'd have to clear to make this happen. Let's just run through the big ones real quick. First up, cannibalization. Would this thing eat into iPad sales? Yeah, absolutely. It goes right up against their whole iPad as a Mac accessory strategy. Next, battery life. A second screen, even a small one, is a power drain, and you know how much Apple loves to talk about battery life. Then there's heat. That trackpad sits right on top of the battery, which is not a great place to add more heat. And finally, palm rejection. I mean, it's one thing to ignore your palm when you're just pointing and clicking. It's a whole other ballgame to do it perfectly while also tracking the tiny tip of a pencil.
But here's where we get to the really exciting part. This is where the idea goes from being just a cool feature to being something truly revolutionary. Because the real vision here, it isn't just about having a tiny little second screen under your fingers. No, it's about fundamentally changing the very nature of how we interact with our computers.
This right here, this is the key. You have to stop thinking of it as a display you look at. Instead, think of it as a programmable, context-aware surface, a surface that any application can change and control. The screen part is just there so the app can paint whatever interface you need for that exact moment. The real magic is the input.
So imagine this. You open up Logic Pro to make some music. Instantly, your trackpad becomes a set of mixing faders that give you a little click when you hit 0 dB. Or maybe it turns into a grid of drum pads. Or an XY controller for live effects. This could literally replace thousands of dollars of dedicated hardware for musicians. Or what if you're a video editor in Final Cut? The trackpad could transform into a virtual jog wheel, and you'd feel a little haptic bump for every single frame you scrub through. Or it could become a super precise color grading wheel, giving you a level of fine control it's impossible with a regular trackpad.
And of course, for artists, this is the absolute dream. It stops being a trackpad. It becomes your Wacom tablet, just built right into the laptop. The Surface could show a super zoomed-in part of your canvas for doing detail work, or maybe it becomes a custom palette with all your favorite brushes right there under your hand.
But the real potential, the true explosion of creativity, would come from developers. If Apple just gave them a simple tool, an API, let's call it Trackpad Canvas, that lets them draw on that space and get Apple Pencil input, my gosh, the innovation from third-party apps would be insane. We'd see things we can't even dream of right now.
So, in the end, it all comes down to this one question. On one hand, you have this incredibly innovative idea that could totally redefine how pros work and create an experience you can't get anywhere else. And on the other hand, you have the very real, very powerful business reason to keep selling more iPads. Innovation or profit. Which path is Apple going to choose? Well, I guess only time will tell.